let's start on how I got involved with sound engineering. In the 90s era, here in Greece, the vast majority of the studio were sucking. As about the Not as about the place they used to be, but mostly as the mixing quality they deliver to their client, to what went out to the record labels or your demo tape or whatever usage that product should have. They were sucking. For example, if you ask them to make the sound of the guitar bigger, they used to crank up the bass frequencies, and everything was boiling.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host Brian, and today I welcome back my good friend from Greece, Stamatis Kekes. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good, actually. This is interesting because
hello to our audience as well.
Yeah, actually, this is interesting because normally we don't do a whole lot of part twos. I've only done it so far with John Brooks because well, that one we were doing it as a live stream, and unfortunately we were getting echoes, so I think that was on my fault right there, but we ended up doing a do-over. But this one, I actually you wanted to come on because you wanted to share some stories every time as a studio engineer as well as having your own studio. So I guess before we get into that, how you been? How's Greece been?
I don't know about the weather, if we are on spring or on autumn. It's still rainy. I still lit up the fireplace from time to time. But spring also in the village is quite crazy period because if you are behind planting your own vegetables and having your own stuff, it's the right time to do everything.
Yeah.
So
it's been kind of the same way here. Yeah.
Combined with my IT obligations as a job, combined with my martial arts school, everything goes crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine too. Sometimes I hear the weather's been a little inconsistent too, but it's actually been pretty good, actually. It's starting to feel like summer's right around the corner, too. So hopefully summer blesses you pretty soon. So,
in about a month or so.
Something like that. But I guess you finally got employed. You got a new IT job.
I'm doing freelancing, as I used to do before my last job. You know how it goes when you have a big client and that goes, the client decides to go off. It leaves a gap, very huge gap. All of that, deploying fishing net for catching new clients, etc., etc., etc. It takes some time. Right now I'm in the recover curve. Still a lot of things to do, still waiting for new clients, but things are rolling. Also, some part of my job has been switched on selling eggs from the Coop. And also, I'm doing an opening in the music industry as a session drummer for doing remote recording, mixing, etc., etc.
So yeah, you really keep yourself busy, as you said, with your martial arts school, the chicken coop, this freelancing IT, and now even being a session musician. You keep yourself busy, man.
Yeah. That's the meaning of life, having no time for negative thoughts.
True.
And being creative all the time.
Oh, I think negativity somehow finds a way to get into your brain in some sort of way. but that's why I try to stay away from the news, to be honest. But it always seems to come back in some way, shape, or form too. So, but how is your chicken coop coming? You getting a lot of eggs and everything?
I'm getting about 70 or 60 to 70 eggs per day.
That's pretty awesome. I guess. How much do you split between like your household and like how much do you want to sell like on the market?
I have plans to expand the population because our eggs, we have clients that they want them, and we must be consistent on our orders. Fingers crossed on that.
Yeah, especially, I don't know how big the population of Greece is, but I imagine some millions of people. So it could be a lot. It could also be daunting too. So
we are selling only in our state, not longer than 70 to 80 kilometers from my village.
Okay, so just keeping it local, not like expanding the entire.
Yeah, local and only through rumors, not publishing stuff, etc., because the government requires way too complicated stuff to exist with enormous amounts of costs, a ton of certifications in order to be able to sell your eggs. And if you do that, then you have to lower the quality of the food you deliver to the birds. If you lower that quality, then the quality of the egg is pretty much like those that you can find in the supermarkets.
So I guess mom's the word, as they would say.
Yeah, right now our eggs are, let's say, free-range eggs.
All right. I guess best of luck going forward on that endeavor there too. But I guess in terms of Sesame Musician, I guess you get invited to any groups yet, or are you guys just mainly doing it online, just sending off your tracks and see what happens?
Mostly offline, mostly online, through various platforms like Fiverr or Sound Better or Air Gigs. This is still building up as I'm trying to launch my personal website as a drummer. That's a new stuff. My site is under development. Soon will be launched. And all of these require for the marketing purposes to have your own site. My drum covers will act as a portfolio on that, on what am I able to do, etc., etc. Also, as a musician, I'm planning to start launching lessons on teaching drums.
Oh, you're going to be a drum teacher now.
I used to teach a long time ago.
One of your many
careers,
we should say.
2010. I was an easy fire for the constitution I was teaching on.
Oh, sorry.
Crisis arrows, and I was an easy fire. Okay, you go out. But I was pretty successful on that. I used to do clinics and attract more than a couple of thousand people, local people in Athens. It means a lot in a so tight drumming community to attract so many people.
Well, Athens is a big city too, so I mean, you tend to attract a lot of people. So, Stamatis the Great.
We'll see how it goes.
I think it's
a matter of time.
Again, yeah. Sorry, how about you? Still going there? I know you could do it, definitely too. I mean, you're definitely the most experienced drummer I've ever seen, especially given a set that we all seen you play on too. So, I mean, best of luck in your endeavors here, man. So, speaking of your drum covers too, you've actually kind of moved away from doing more of like the Dream Theater sort of genres and those sort of musics too. You kind of jumped more back into classic rocks with Black Sabbath and
Yeah, I had in the Q&A season a Q&A series, let's say something like a tribute to Black Sabbath. So even you chosen the Supernote. It was one of the first covers I released from that season. I have Dream Theaters in my oven. I delay the Portnoy stuff that I have. Those are easy. And I'm stuck with Mangini era. I'm doing something that it's really hard to play. Really hard. Mangini, it's like a robot, monster of independence, monster of speed. And I'm climbing at that level. So I'm doing more catchy and let's say easy to go songs in order not to occupy too much time from my practice schedule.
I see, yeah.
So that devote on my exercising and that Dream Theater stuff. But you will see advanced things coming.
I wanted to say, I actually dig your Dio cover. It was A Light in the Dark. And that was actually one of the first times I heard it, because I heard part of a song on, it was a Metallica, where they like mesh certain songs together. So
that was from Rainbow. Cozy Powell also is a very tricky drummer. You listen him playing, but when you sit down and try to play it, you discover that it's not so easy as it goes while you're listening it.
yeah, I think the production tends to be a little deceiving, particularly for those older songs. You tend to think it's probably a little bit easier, but there's probably more to it. When for drummers like us, when you start getting the experience and everything, you probably start hearing a lot more in terms of like toms, hi-hat, double bass, and how many times he's probably hitting the snare, maybe even the ghost notes here and there, depending on like how sharp your hearing gets at that point too. I do have to ask, like, and I guess whenever this airs, we probably already will do our Judas Priest collab at some point, but you wanted to do a Judas Priest collaboration this time. What made you want to pick Judas Priest and these two particular songs, the Sentinel and Jawbreaker?
The Judas Priest are, as a band, one of my favorites. It's also the definition of the term heavy metal. You hear a concrete, tight, well-tuned like twin cam engine rhythm section. The riffs are electrifying you, and the voice takes over what's left from the previous ones. So it's just the definition of the word, of the term heavy metal, at least to my personal taste. They are also very tricky in their playtime. Even though, if I go back in their history, the most known drummer of them was the one that currently plays with Toto, Simon Phillips. It's one of the most well-known drummers. The rest of them were drummers that nobody knew them. They passed through Judas Priest, and that's it. Except for their current one, which is from the Rain It Down album and after, till today, Scott Travis. An extremely tall guy. And when it was on Rockwave Festival in Athens back on 2004, it was my first festival as volunteer sound engineer, assistant. Grab the cable, go and hear what goes wrong there, etc., etc. And after the sound check, I just, as a drummer, asked him, how do you manage to sit so low, play so fast with your feet, and have everything so spread around? And he told me that if I sit normally, there are no stands that can bring so high everything.
I mean, we might as well call him Andre the Giant at this point. If he's...
Yeah.
So.
And yes, Judas Priest was always my choice. They have simplistic songs that are easy to play, easy to lock with the time. And their tricky parts are tricky if you don't have the technique. If the technique is there and you understand how it goes, it's easy to reproduce. That's why I picked one of those songs. And also are great songs as well. Catchy for every metalhead around.
Actually, it was always funny because the collaborations we've always done, especially because of those two Dream Theater ones, they were always like 8 to close to 9 minutes long. So that's why I picked the Sentinel, because it's longer songs. I thought we at least keep with the tradition of playing long drum cover songs.
I don't have any problem on that for short songs as well. I don't have any problem.
Well, we just seem to keep finding ourselves in it, and we're meant to entertain our audience, so it's like gladiator music.
The Sentinel is more straightforward than the Jawbreaker. The Jawbreaker has some syncopated double kick patterns at some points, which will be a nightmare if you don't play them exactly as they are. Because if those will miss, all the song will sound completely empty.
Yeah, I can see why too. So, but for the purpose of what we've always been doing, I thought we at least keep with the tradition. So, plus I never actually heard of these songs too, so I thought Sentinel would be a cool one to do. I always like to kind of challenge myself with longer songs, because some of the songs I've been playing with some of my drum covers, they've always been like those 3 minutes, maybe a couple 4 minutes here and there, but I've never done anything that was like over 6 or maybe a couple here and there, but never did any that were like longer than that, close to like 10 minutes, and that's kind of my New Year's resolution, to keep playing those longer songs this year. So so
okay, my longest cover I did since last time we spoke was around 20 minutes. It was a combination of Dream Theater Home and the Dance of Eternity, both in one video.
You did those all together? Oh, wow. I give. You got me. You got me. But I would say I did do the Ultra Violence from Death Angel, which was, I'd say, definitely one of my more harder ones, but that was a 10-minute song, so needless to say, not to toot my own horn, but I at least got something out of it. So
big songs have their beauty as well. You play, and it's never enough. You never get bored of the song. But it also requires a ton of practice time, because if you say that you will repeat that song 10 times, a 20-minute song, 10 times means 200 minutes, approximately 4 hours, only for that song.
Only for that song. Yeah. I mean, we're drummers. We like to abuse ourselves. It builds our spirit, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right. Let's get into the question we've been doing, or at least building up to the whole time here, too. So, here's how it works. You can talk about your time as a studio engineer, and then we'll jump into the fun questions, which I didn't really get to since our previous one that we did, because at that time I didn't really have any fun questions at the time, but it kept coming as we moved along, too. So, let's go ahead and start off. Let's talk about your time as a studio engineer. I guess, how'd you get into it? And then just, I guess, let's do a beginning, middle, and end, that sort of thing. So
let's start on how I got involved with sound engineering. In the 90s era, here in Greece, the vast majority of the studio were sucking. As about not as about the place they used to be, but mostly as the mixing quality they deliver to their client, to what went out to the record labels or your demo tape or whatever usage that product should have. They were sucking. For example, if you ask them to make the sound of the guitar bigger, they used to crank up the bass frequencies, and everything was boiling. That thing, and I was thinking that the bands outside from Greece were occupying sound engineers that were capable of releasing that sound without any issues. So if they do it, there must be a way for me to do it, or at least to know how to do it, in order to instruct the sound engineer what to do and deliver me the sound that I want on the drums, on the guitar, on the bass. And I had a friend who had a studio once upon a time in Thessaloniki. At that time I was living there, and we started experimenting things. Hey Stamatis, sit on the drums, let's place microphones. We have a couple of hours. Let's record something to have for experimentation. And then I've started reading some books, going there and get involved with the recorded material to do my own experimentation as well. I had the green light to do whatever I want, and start learning things, but learning things mostly without having a theory background. I was very good in physics though in the high school. When I moved to Athens and start teaching in a conservatory, we had Berkeley Music. We had branches from Berkeley Music College. I was leading in the drumming department there for that branch. But we had also for sound engineering, for guitar, for many things that they were teaching at that time. And I just took the courses that was missing from my background and got my degree very quickly, let's say in a couple of years or so. And then luck turns on, and as an IT staff, I was working in parallel to jobs. My first job was as a system engineer, and my second one was as a drumming instructor. I met the company that was organizing and doing live events for big bands from outside, like Iron Maiden, like Saxon, like many, you name it, Dream Theater, Manowar, etc., 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 etc. And I got them as clients on that area. Once I got familiarized with them, and the time for the Rockwave Festival of 2004 arrived, I told them, do you want any volunteers on that event? And they told me, yes, we want. Especially if you have a degree, there you can do the case study for signing papers on the required stuff that the government wants for a live event. They have a sound engineer, a civil engineer, and an electrician engineer to sign some papers. some case studies for the safety of the crowd, for this, as about the electricity, as about whatever stands there, and as about the sound, that nobody will get deaf, let's say. I was the one that signed that paper for the first time, and then I was there for the sound checks to help around. I got a pack of papers with a ton of questions for the sound engineers that they were there, because it was my first time that I had to collaborate with them, and let's say it's a God's gift for a sound engineer to meet the grades and to be in company with them and collaborating on delivering the sound they want to deliver. At least seeing them doing things, you learn a ton of things. If you have the theory background, then pieces from the puzzle are taking their position. Also, it happened to do sound for not the headliner and the band before the headliners. Always were bringing their own sound engineers, their own equipment, etc., etc. The rest of them were occupying one of us, the volunteers, for doing the sound. And that's how it started professionally. I used to have a personal room for playing my drums, studying, etc., etc., etc. Eventually that place turned into a recording studio. I bought some equipment, starting some bookings, and things were keeping rolling with local bands. And year after year, I've done many sound for many artists, like Saxon, like Lita Ford, Queenstrike. Queenstrike on 2004 in the rock wave. Many names to say. Iced Earth on rock wave of 2007. And at that event on 2007, I met also a person with my favorite band, Dream Theater. Get to know them personally.
I would say, how are they personally? I guess obviously Portnoy, but I don't know who else is still in the band.
At that time, yes, it was Portnoy era. Portnoy was trying to be cool with everybody. Nothing bad on mic. We kept contact since for some years after, and that contact stopped eventually on 2010. James Labrie was pretty much the same that you see them in the interviews at some time when he is mad. My Young was always on his bass doing things all the time, and Rudes was crazy, okay, playing things on synth, but also having fun with the rest of the company. Cool persons, next door persons. I don't say that they think that they are living gods, etc., etc., etc. When it's playtime, they are professionals. They get out on the stage, they perform, they get off when the set list is over. Okay, pretty much like every professional guy is doing. And then they have their lives in private. Nobody knows what happens when the show ends, except for the friends, and that's it. And I do love that on them. Instead of some bands, let's say Motley Crue or some others that their private stuff is always around the internet. You know pretty much how many times per day they fart.
Especially about the crew, yeah, I could probably imagine. So
Yeah, I took that band as an example, as a negative example of that.
that's how my dad always loves looks that kill. So I don't know. I'm sure. I was assuming he obviously knew about Motley Crue's sort of history, obviously drinking and drugs and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
But Dio also saw Dio.
Yeah, on 2007, again on the same festival, Dream Theater was the band before the headliner. The headliner at that time was Heaven and Hell. You know, the Black Sabbath portion with Dio. Also on the drums was Vinny Appice, and I was on the sound check of them. Dio was a next door person, as I read about him. I sat on the table in the backstage, and we had a discussion pretty much like the discussion you have when you meet somebody, and it's not that public persona that Dio used to be. He was pretty nice. He was very gentle, funny, and I also learned at that point that Dio was helped a ton of people. There is a village around in Bulgaria, about 200 kilometers from here, that was suffering underpopulation, etc., etc. And when Dio went there for it's close to Varna, and it's named Kavarna. Dio was in Varna for a live in Bulgaria, and passed through that village. He became sad, and he told that I will resurrect that village. So he decided to organize an event yearly and help locals around to maintain jobs, etc., etc., etc. And they raised a statue of Dio in there. I went there with my bike. I saw it back on 2014. And respect to Ronnie James.